Happiness through curiosity on TRS Clips. The Rajapaksa family right now, geopolitically, it's not got a great name like outside Sri Lanka. It is as a perception that Indians have. Is it true that the economic crisis was caused because of a bunch of wrong decisions taken by that family and the so-called corruption narratives around that family? Or would you like to draw out a parallel, like opposite opinion? And again, it's a very open-ended question. I'm giving you the narratives I've heard on the show. I might be totally wrong.
It's easy to demonize people in life. It helps you to, position oneself. And in my view, that's not the case often. Okay. It's easy to say, okay, so-and-so is the villain. Because I think as human beings, we prefer that. No? We feel comfortable if we know somebody else is a villain, somebody is a villain, and that's how it works.
Also, in today's day and age, I don't know what to believe on the internet. There's so much propaganda flying around everywhere. I would just like to know your opinion.
You see, our case, Sri Lanka, this was a cumulative effect. The economic crisis had nothing to do with one individual or the other. I think every leader since independence, we received our independence in 1948, 1 year after you. And at that time, we had a healthy economy. The British, whatever you may say about them, in the Sri Lankan context, they left a strong balance sheet, if you're talking in private sector terms. We had, during the war, we had provided rubber to the war effort. We had graphite for the war effort. So we had a good set of reserves. We were positioned very well. And Lee Kuan Yew, when he was planning Singapore, visited Sri Lanka and went back, and he said, he wants to make Singapore like Sri Lanka. This was in the 50s. And subsequently, before he died, he mentioned that Singapore should never be like Sri Lanka, that he hoped it would be like Sri Lanka. So you can imagine within his lifetime how his opinion changed. Basically what happened in my view, and this is my personal view, is that we spent more than we earned. Because we had money when we started, and we basically spent on social welfare, on building a huge government service. When the crisis struck, about 80% of our revenues, that is what we earn as a government, was spent on salaries and pensions for government servants. Only 20% was left for everything else. So we had to borrow heavily just to pay for our public service. We have, let's say, 22 million people in Sri Lanka population. About 1.5 million people are working in government. And another 500,000 are earning a pension from government, and we don't have a pension fund. So 2 million people are earning directly from the government. So we just kept spending. As a result, there were good things also that happened to us. We have a very high standard of education. We have very high healthcare, high level of healthcare. Quality of life is very high. And we have a certain amount of infrastructure we have developed. So our people are, basically very competent. And we have a very high quality of life, have a high life expectancy also. But our problem is that we didn't have money to sustain this. So when COVID struck, Ukraine war took place, and also our then president took a decision which I think at that time was probably not the best decision to take. He said he wanted to shift away from chemical fertilizers to organic fertilizers because he had the right reasons, maybe, because a lot of environmental issues were associated with that problem. So the combination of these factors affected our economy. But to blame one family or one individual, it doesn't make... This is a collective decision, and every leader, I think, took decisions. At that time, they thought they were the right decisions they took. No leader says, I'm going to take a bad decision, but he's taking a decision in the context of information available to him or her, because we have women leaders on both sides also. But so that was one aspect. The other is our income as a country. Our main source of income is $7.5 billion coming from remittances from Sri Lankans working abroad. That is in the Middle East, in Europe, in East Asia, wherever.
They pour money back into the country.
They pour money. So that is number one, $7.5 billion. Then number two is $5 billion from apparel, garments. We export a lot of garments largely to the United States, about $5 billion. We are very good at what we do there. We manufacture it well. It's high quality garments. For example, Victoria's Secret, for example. A lot of the lingerie is made in Sri Lanka. And that's a high end of that market. Swimming suits. I mean, we have certain niches that we are very, very strong on. Now, $5 billion we export, of which 2/3 we import the cloth, and so our value added is about $2 billion. Number three has been basically tea. We all talk about tea, but tea is what the British gave us.
Ceylon tea.
Ceylon tea, exactly.
Some of the best tea I've had in my
exactly.
life.
Now
Anyway,
that is a British legacy. We did not have any tea before the British came. They brought it. They first brought coffee, and then there was a blight which wiped out our coffee. Then they brought tea from China. But we only really export about $2 billion of tea. And a lot of our hill country, you visited some of the hill, we have the tea gardens there. Basically, that's the tea. Then about $1 billion of information technology exports. So that's the lineup. Then we have tourism, which is this wild card. We have never been able to realize the full potential. The highest we earned from tourism was, I think, 2018, about $4 billion. So it was that time, let's say, third place. Then COVID struck and it went like to zero. You know, there was each time we had the Easter bombing, it dropped again. We have never been able to push this up. So these are our sources of income. So our leaders were not able to broaden the sources of income. And so the combination of these factors, we had our limited income sources. We were spending too much on our government and on welfare. That's where we ended up, is where we are today.
Effectively, it's a bunch of not the best business decisions.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, I very often tell my business friends, I mean, I come from a private sector background also. If we ran our country the way we ran, if we ran a business the way we ran our country, we would have been bankrupt long ago. So that's what countries don't go bankrupt. So, therefore you manage to go through. So now we have an opportunity. That is to say, we hit a crisis. We have now gone to the world. We are restructuring the economy, and I think that is the positive side here. We are looking forward, and of course, this integration with India is what will get our economy moving. Because last year to this year, if you look at the last 2 years, our economy shrank 10% over the last 2 years. Now your economy is going to be growing 6.5%. So if we are able to hook on to your economy, whether it's tourism, last month, for example, or this year so far, about 20% of tourists are from India. So if we can hook on to tourism, we can do some of the other areas we are talking of, electricity, ports, the port sector, oil. You start integrating in different ways, then we can take off.
Okay. No, I love it. I'm getting to learn so much from you.
More than learning, it's clear.
Yeah, all of it's registered. Like, I'll give you the emotional angle here.
Okay.
It's very cricket oriented.
Right.
We want you to be as good a team as us cricket wise.
Good.
Like if by chance we see Sri Lanka not qualifying for one of the World Cups or one of the trophies, every Indian cricket fan feels like, bhai kya yaar, come na. Like, that's like, it's a way of saying, brother, come on, be with us. So I know that it's very loose to attach cricket to geopolitical scenarios, but that's how Indians feel about Sri Lanka.
I think cricket is life, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think it's a bad thing to attach it that way.
And I know Dr. Jaishankar does the same as well.
I think in your podcast also. Yes, that's right.
Yeah. No, but I love what you said. You basically said that since Sri Lanka gained its independence, there was some wrong structuring decisions at the start, which actually over the years led to this moment now. I definitely know that the fertilizer angle you spoke about was a slightly wrong decision on behalf of the Rajapaksa family. My curiosity is then, why has that family got so much negative PR globally? Like, why have we received the news of like that family having done wrong things? Like, again, I'm just giving you very Indian narrative, sir. like, for example, I might ask you after this, what do you feel about PM Modi? Because I have a certain opinion as an Indian. I would love to know what a Sri Lankan thinks of PM Modi. In the same way, I'll tell you the opinion that we had of the Rajapaksa family is that I think they're very powerful. It's a family that's controlled politics for a long time. Possibly it's that whole thing about hard times create hard men create soft times create soft men. The world would categorize that family in that bracket of soft men because of what we see on the news about Sri Lanka's economic crisis. And I've gone to Sri Lanka. It's one of the most beautiful places in the world. And when I'd gone, people were happy, people were radiant, everyone was hopeful, there was positivity in the air. And then on the news, if you see these things about a food shortage, or if I talk to my Sri Lankan friends who talk about economic problems, I really question that, what went so wrong? Like what other decisions were taken like that? So what I've gained from your answer is that you said that it's easy to demonize people in the media because that's human nature. When things are going wrong, you say it's your fault. Like when things are going wrong, especially economically, say in a Sri Lankan's heart, they're feeling almost like they are feeling like a victim. They are a victim. So there has been anger because of that victim feeling, and that anger is directed into the Rajapaksa family. What is the truth about the Rajapaksa family now? What's happening?
If Mahinda Rajapaksa had not been president, probably our war would not have ended. Wherever you may stand on the issue, he was a man who had the courage to say, okay, we have tried enough, now let us end this. And at that time, he was virtually a god in Sri Lanka.
This is 2009?
2009, exactly. Okay, since then, maybe certain bad decisions were made, maybe bad luck also. And today, the society is more divided in Sri Lanka about the Rajapaksas. It is a fact. I think with age, I'm more philosophical on these things. History has to finally judge everybody. It will judge you, it will judge me. So maybe we are too close to the situation now. I mean, I know these people personally. I mean, as I said, I worked with them. I respect them as well. And when I talk like this, there will be many people who will criticize me because it is fashionable. It is fashionable in social media to attack the Rajapaksas today or to attack somebody else.
Yep.
But that's not my nature. I don't think that is correct. I think let history judge who did what. Now, the present president is trying very hard to put the country together. He has many critics, large number of critics. And the other day I saw him saying, he doesn't expect to be loved by people. He wants to get his work done. So history will judge all of us, I think. But today's world, people are quick to judge, very quick to judge. And sadly, not quick to change your mind. That's another problem. People judge and then they become, persistent in that.
I think long-form conversations like this
they help. I know.
Shed some light.
I know. Because my view is, I mean, this whole idea of demonizing the Rajapaksas, I don't think there's any benefit from that. Okay, maybe was there too much family in politics? Could be. I mean, that's another question one can discuss. If South Asia has been full of family dynasties, is that a good thing or a bad thing? We can have a conversation on that. I mean, that's one issue. I personally don't believe in family politics. I don't think that is the way to go. But then that's maybe because I'm not from a political family or whatever. But so those are conversations we could have. But I don't believe in demonizing individuals, I think.
Okay. Because this is a solution-oriented podcast, what's the current mindset about the bounce back?
I think, there is optimism. We Sri Lankans are very resilient. I hope it applies to our cricket as well.
Of course.
Yes. And we are going to bounce back, there is no doubt, but it's going to be tough. The next couple of years will be tough. There is no question about it.
Is the biggest asset the Sri Lankans abroad?
It's a mix. There is a problem here. We see people going abroad. There are a lot of people going abroad now. That means we don't have enough people at home, especially skilled people. So we have doctors going abroad because the crisis pushed people out. Engineers, a lot of professionals. So that's an issue. Young people, they prefer to go abroad because they don't have patience now. Because they see on the internet all kinds of opportunities elsewhere, and they say, to hell with it. We are not going to, be here. We get out. So that's going to be the challenge. We need to keep people who can get things done at home. And the remittances from abroad are important for the short term. So we have to ensure that keeps coming. That is bouncing back now. It dropped during COVID. It dropped last year. But now it's bouncing back. Tourism, we have to push. And everybody watching this, if they all visit, I think everybody watching our podcast, if they visit Sri Lanka, we are okay.
I would love to be a part of that change because I genuinely love your country. Like, I feel every place you visit leaves you with something. What I was left with from Sri Lanka was a lot of friendliness and a lot of peace. That's at least the experience I had. And there's way too much natural beauty in Sri Lanka for people not to see it once in their life. There's too much natural beauty. Like, it is a very blessed land, but you need to actually see it from your own eyes to understand it. And also, the brown person in me just loves all the brown people around. Because when you're surrounded by white people or Asian people, you're just feeling a little bit out of place. A little bit. Like, not that there's anything wrong with them, but it's always nicer to have brown people around.
So it is, I think, from what I can see now, a lot of people like to go to Goa, at least in Delhi. I don't know about Mumbai. And Colombo is not that far away. So I'm not saying that they shouldn't go to Goa, but Colombo can be the place to go. And then we are now trying to develop the gaming industry also. There will be a world-class casino coming up soon. By next year, it will be in place. So that's something else that is interesting. I don't gamble, but I know there are many people who enjoy gaming. So that will be another aspect. So I think we can, that's part of our bounce back. Tourism will be the quick win for us if we can make it happen. On the apparel side, there is a challenge because already our garment exports have dropped about 20% because the US market, there is a slowdown there. And they are not ordering their inventory. They have too much inventory. So I think it will take a little while for them to catch up. So this year, it doesn't look good for the apparel industry, the garment industry.
Okay. So it's primarily tourism, the Sri Lankans abroad, a bit of the garment industry, but again, that's a volatile market. It could.
Exactly. And IT is another important, I said we had about $1 billion worth, and you have some of our big companies there. HCL has invested there. I think Tata is looking at it as well. That's a sector, but that relies on human resources. So if we have a lot of our young people getting out of the country, then, that's a challenge. So we have to work on that. Okay. But your companies are very responsible that way. They actually pay for training in the IT sector when they come there. I notice HCL does that. They give scholarships for young people to go to study and then come back and join. So I would hope that more IT companies from here would go out there.
So if you enjoyed this video, subscribe to TRS Clips for more.